to all of you. Today in economics, I am going to discuss the lesson 3, production analysis. Learning objectives. To understand the various factors of production and its characteristics. Introduction. Production is a process of using various material and immaterial inputs in order to make output for consumption. Production process creates economic well-being. In economics, production refers to the creation or addition of value. It simply transforms the inputs into output. What do you mean by production? Transforms the inputs into output. Next, let us see features of the factors of production. Factors of production means resources used in the process of production of commodities. What do you mean by factors of production? Resources used in the process of production of commodities. There are 4 types: land, labor, capital and organization. These are the factors of production. Primary factors of production. Land and labor is called primary factors of production. Land represents natural resources. Labor represents human resources. These 2 factors are called the primary factors of production. And the secondary factors of production, capital and organization. Saved amount is called as capital, which serves as investment in the production process. Also, organization is a special form of labor. Capital and organization is called secondary factors of production. These 4 factors depend on each other. They have a coordinated impact on production of goods and services. Goods are produced, services are performed. Next, let us see first factor, land. In ordinary sense, land refers to the soil or the surface of the earth. But in economics, land means all gifts of nature owned and controlled by human beings, which yield an income. Land is the original source of all material wealth. The term land in economics is often used in a wider sense. It does not mean only the surface of the soil, but it also includes all those natural resources which are free gifts of nature. The natural gifts include rivers, forests, mountains and oceans, heat of sun, light, climate, weather, rainfall, which are above the surface of land. Minerals under the surface of the earth like iron, coal, copper. These are all called gift of nature. Next, let us see characteristics of land. First one, land is primary factors of production. In any kind of production process, we have to start with land. For example, in industries, it helps to provide raw materials, and in agriculture, crops are produced on land. Next one, land is passive factor of production. Passive means inactive. This is because it cannot produce anything by itself. For example, wheat cannot grow on a piece of land automatically. To grow wheat, man has to cultivate land. So, land is passive factor of production. Next one, land is permanent. All man-made things are perishable and these may even go out of existence. But land is indestructible. Thus, it cannot go out of existence. Land is permanent. Land is immovable. It cannot be transported from one place to another. For instance, no portion of India's surface can be transported to some other country. Next, land is free gift of nature. Man has to make efforts in order to acquire other factors of production. But to acquire land, no human efforts are needed. Land is not the outcome of human beings. Rather, it existed even long before the evolution of man. Next, let us see. Land is a no cost of production. Land has no cost of production. There is some original and inexhaustible powers of land. Then land is heterogeneous in nature. Fertility of land differs on different pieces of land. One piece of land may produce more and the other less. That is a heterogeneous. Land is differ in fertility. Next, let us see. Land is fixed in supply. The total quantity of land does not undergo any change. It is limited and cannot be increased or decreased with human efforts. No alternation can be made in the surface of land. Last one. Land is subject to law of diminishing returns. Because you are continuously using the land fertility will diminish. Okay. Then next let us see labor. What do you mean by labor? According to Marshall, labor represents services provided by the factor labor, which helps in yielding an income to the owner of the labor power. Usually, in economics, the term labor has a wider meaning. It refers to any work undertaken for securing an income or reward. Usually, labor can be divided into two types, manual and intellectual. Manual labor example, the work done by agricultural worker, cook, the rickshaw puller. These are the example for manual labor. The work of a doctor, teacher or an engineer is an intellectual. In short, labor in economics refers to any type of work performed by a laborer for earning an income. Next, let us see characteristics of labor. Labor is an animate factor of production. Labor is an active factor of production. It is the factor that starts production. Labor starts production. But land and capital alone cannot start production. Labor to be productive themselves. So that labor is called active factor of production. Then labor is perishable. Labor is perishable in nature. This simply means labor cannot be stored. Labor's working ability will be lost if he is not coming to that shift. No one can replace his work. It cannot be stored and utilized the next day. A laborer cannot store his labor to use at another time. So we say labor as a factor of production is highly perishable. And labor is inseparable from the laborer. This means the physical presence of the labor is compulsory. To sell his services, the laborer has to be physically present at the place of production of goods and services. We cannot separate him and his labor power. Then labor units are heterogeneous. We cannot expect labor to be uniform. Every labor is unique, and so his labor power will also differ from others. The quality and the efficiency of the labor will depend on the skills, work, incentives and other qualities of the laborer. Labor has poor bargaining power. Labor has poor bargaining power. Laborers are forced to work for whatever wages the employer offers. Labor work is their one source of income, so they accept whatever wages the employer offers. Then another important one, labor is less mobile between places and occupation. The laborers can relocate, move to the site of work. But there are many barriers to the movement of labor from one place to another. So we can say labor is not as mobile as same as other factors of production like capital. And also the supply of labor is relatively inelastic. At any given point of time, the supply of labor in the market is inelastic. It cannot be increased instantly to keep up with the demand. Next, let us see capital. Capital is financial asset of a business. Capital includes all kinds of goods that are used for further production of more goods like machines, tools, factory buildings, transport equipment. Marshall says capital consists of all kinds of wealth other than free gifts of nature which yield income. Bloomberg defines it is a produced means of production. Next, let us see characteristics of capital. Capital is a man-made factor. Capital is a man-made thing. It is production and supply is controlled by the efforts of man. Capital is generated when human labor is applied to natural resources. Next, capital is mobile between places and persons. Capital has high mobility among all the factors of production. Capital has the highest mobility. The land is immobile. Land labor has the least mobility, while capital has both place mobility and the occupational mobility. Capital is a passive factor of production. That is, passive means inactive. Capital is a passive factor of production. This is so because capital is ineffective without the cooperation of labor. A business cannot operate only with capital. They need to invest equally in labor and capital. Next, let us see capital supply is elastic. Capital's supply is elastic. The elasticity of capital is high. Its supply can be adjusted quickly and easily depending on the demand. Capital demand is a derived demand. Capital is durable. Capital yields income. Capital depreciates. Capital depreciates over time. For example, if a machine is used again and again, its efficiency goes down and it may not be suitable for further use due to depreciation. Capital yields income, that is productive. Capital helps in increasing production. When labor is given adequate capital, it effectively increases production. More capital leads to better efficiency and increased productivity. Next, let us see organization. Joseph Zumbeter says that an entrepreneur innovates, coordinates other factors of production, plans and runs a business. He not only runs the business but also bears the risk of business. He not only runs the business but also bears the risk of business. His reward is residual. This residual is either positive or negative or zero. Functions of an entrepreneur or organizer: initiation, innovation, coordination, control, and risk taking. Initiation: an organizer is the initiator of the business. By considering the situation and availability of resources and planning the entire process of business. Innovation: a successful entrepreneur is always an innovator. He introduces new methods in the production process. Coordination: an organizer applies a particular combination of the factors of production to start and run the business. Control: organizer controls so that nothing prevents the organization from achieving the goal. Risk taking and uncertainty bearing. There are risk taking and uncertainty obstacles. Risks may be ensured, but uncertainties cannot be ensured. They reduce the profit. Okay, children, go through the textbook, learn well. Thank you.